Don't bother, I'm not singing. I'm talking. So home I went, heartbroken. And Father, when he heard the news, flew into a temper and wanted me to become a school teacher. Poor Mother, of course, was heartsick too. She felt with me. But my teacher, Marietta von Leclerc, was simply furious about my father's reaction. But then there came a little bit of a man. He was an agent. Levi was his name. And he came to Graz to make engagements for singers and went to my teacher, of course. He said how the whole Vienna Opera House was buzzing, talking about this new singer with the contralto voice, this young girl that sang there. Now, he said, I am interested in young talent, and I telegraphed to the Dresden Royal Opera, and they are willing to pay the expenses and hear her there. And if they find she is what they think and has talent and voice, they will make a contract with her, I'm sure. So, when my teacher, Marietta von Leclerc, heard all this, she came right away to my mother. But poor Mother said, yes, perhaps, but we cannot go a second time to the field marshal. Never mind. Mother, never mind, I cried. I'll get it somehow. I was so excited at this good news that I thought right away of another plan. A schoolmate of mine had married a rich man in Graz, and he was interested in me too. So I went to him, and when I told him of my opportunity, he said right away, now here are 400 gulden. Take them. Do anything you want with them. But for God's sake, first get some real clothes. You cannot go to Dresden looking like that. Buy yourself a decent dress. Mein Gott. And buy also some real shoes. You see, I still had those old soldier shoes. I took his advice. But first I gave 200 gulden to my mother, that she too could get a dress. Ah, poverty is so terrible. My heart aches still again when I think of those black days. But this time I didn't say anything to my father about my trip. I lied because I thought it was necessary. Father, I'm invited with a school friend to go on a visit to the mountains, but I'll be back soon, in a week. He believed me. Poor father. So, all alone, I went to Dresden. My feelings you can imagine. I went to the Hotel Weber, where Sembrich lived when she was young. I had already bought the new dress and hat and shoes, so I presented a decent appearance for the first time in my life. There were 3 other singers to be heard on trial, all contraltos. Well, they sang first. I was the last. To me, who sat listening, they sounded, so beautiful. I thought, oh, I am nothing to compare to them. I have no chance here. And my heart dropped down into my new booth. Well, when my turn came, I sang my same songs, Ah, mon fils, from Donizetti's La Prophète, and the drinking song from Lucrezia Borgia. I did my very best, because I had to succeed this time. Here is my recording of Ah, mon fils, that I made later, in 1903. When I was through, Plateau, an old Hanover aristocrat, a big, wonderful man, he was the intendant impresario. He said, "It is a very beautiful voice. I will engage you. I'll pay you 3,600 marks the first year, 4,600 marks the second year, and the third year, I pay you 5,000 marks. So you will go up all the time. After the first year, if you disappoint us, I have, of course, the right to cancel the contract. In addition, you can sing in the cathedral too." Well, I was so overcome. I could only stare at him and nod my head. I couldn't speak. "Now, we will make the contract," he went on. "You will sign first, and then we have to send it to the king. And if he is satisfied, everything is well and good." So I had my contract for 3,600 marks. I hardly knew what a mark was. I had seen so little money. "Now," he said, "after you sign and it comes back from the king, then your father must sign it too. We will send it to you." But when he told me I must come back in September to begin my engagement, I burst out crying and said, "Herr Director, you tell me I must be back in September, but that is impossible. In October we expect another baby, and my mother, what will she do without me? I must help my mother. I must be there." And this man, well, he just stared at me. Then the tears ran in his old eyes. He was so touched. "You poor child," he said. Oh, I remember how he looked at me standing there. "You poor blessed child. Don't worry. Everything will be all right. She can keep a servant now. She will not need you." That comforted me. And so I signed the contract. My first engagement. Happy? I should say so. I came home, and they had given me 200 marks to make the expenses. I had to go to Vienna to get the train for home, a whole day and a night. I had my new dress, but I was careful not to wear it on the train. I tied it up in a package and put my old one on, in spite of the new contract. When Father saw me, I said to him, "Now I can tell you the truth. I was not in the mountains at all. But where have you been then?" I told him about Dresden, and Mother admitted that she knew about it. And then it started, the row. But when I said I had a contract with the Dresden Opera, he just laughed and laughed. "Oh ho, and you say they paid for your trip?" he roared. Well, that is very decent of them, I must say. "Teeny, Teeny," she cried. "God in heaven bless you, but what shall I do without you?" "Oh," I told her, "the director says you can now keep a servant, and I will send you all I can, always." Then Mother talked very seriously and told me I must dress well and keep strong and eat good food. "You can have proper food now, thank God." And then came her great triumph when she showed the contract to Father and said, "Now I hope, Hans, you are satisfied at last and will believe your child, for here is the contract with the king's signature." But Father, how he looked at it. "Why," he grumbled, "she gets more money than I get, and she'll make more money than I do." He couldn't believe it, even then, and Father was proud in his heart. He was a mighty good father, but he was always frightened for me. "God only knows what will happen to you, Teeny. You are so young," he said. In part 3, I will tell you about the 3 years I worked for the Dresden Opera Company and how and why they fired me. It was my fault too.